Welcome to Politics for Patriots. Here's your host, the eviscerator of progressive nonsense, the executioner of imbecility, and the grim reaper of BS, Eddie Zipper.
All right, welcome to episode 78 of the Politics for Patriots podcast. If you haven't yet, please subscribe on iTunes, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget that whenever you subscribe to a conservative podcast, a liberal somewhere sheds a tear.
Your tears are so yummy and sweet.
All right, this weekend is the California Democratic Party State Convention held in San Francisco, and several of the 2020 Democrats, as well as some other high-profile Democratic leaders such as Speaker Pelosi, gave speeches in front of the crowd of California Democrats. Now, you know who wasn't there? Hiding Joe Biden. He wasn't there. He's in hiding. He's not coming out until the primaries are over. Now, lots of people think hiding Joe Biden is hiding because he's afraid of making a gaffe. That's part of it, I'm sure. But that's not the real reason that he's hiding. I'm going to show you why Joe Biden is hiding. Now, if you've been paying close attention to the 2020 Democratic primaries like I have, most of these speeches were the typical thing that you would expect, which is the same old socialist fare. Free stuff and orange man bad. That's all they got. Free stuff and orange man bad. At this point, that should be the Democratic Party's official slogan. Free stuff and orange man bad. But John Hickenlooper, if you don't know who that is, don't worry about it. He's just another 0%er running for president. It's astonishing how many of these people are polling at 0%. What are you doing? Stop embarrassing yourself. Get out of the race. I'm looking at you, Eric Swalwell. All right, but anyway, Hickenlooper is one of the 0%ers. And he went to this California Democratic convention with the kind of moderate message you might have heard from Joe Biden had Joe Biden been there. Instead of free stuff and orange man bad, the message is a little bit more, everything can't be free, but orange man bad. That's not a popular message among these California Democrats. Just take a listen.
If we want to beat Donald Trump and achieve big progressive goals, socialism is not the answer. I was reelected in a purple state in 2014, one of the worst years for Democrats in a quarter century. If we're not careful, we're going to end up helping to reelect the worst president in American history. I was one of only 2 Democrats that year to win in a swing state.
Man, he said socialism is not the answer, and that crowd booed him down. He was trying to shout over him, and he could barely do it. There is a major split in the Democratic Party right now. In fact, split isn't even a strong enough word to describe it, okay? That's like referring to the Grand Canyon as that ditch in Arizona. Okay, there's a chasm in the Democratic Party. Progressive Democrats are out in left field on tons of issues. I mean, we've seen so many of the 2020 candidates trying to play to this, right? Pack the Supreme Court. Let's let 16-year-olds vote. Let's get rid of the Electoral College. Whatever they can come up with. And these people cheer because the progressive part of that party wants to tear down the system. I'm sorry, but it's a fact. I mean, John Hickenlooper is a crazy right-winger to these people. All right, Hickenlooper wants to try to solve what Democrats see as the major problems that we face without tearing down everything. And what happens? The left-wingers boo him. They literally boo him. They boo him loudly and emphatically. They want to tear it down. And these progressives are all over your TV, and they're all over the media. But this is not the entire Democratic Party. And I know that a lot of you out there feel like this is the whole Democratic Party. They're just, if somebody's a Democrat, they're just bad. They hate America, they hate capitalism, but that's not true. It's only these progressives. They are far away from what regular Democrats in this country are like. Every Democrat I know in real life would have clapped for what John Hickenlooper was saying throughout this speech. And that wasn't the only time he got booed. He got booed when he was like, hey, we should fix global warming, but we shouldn't tear down everything in order to do it. We shouldn't destroy the entire economy to do it. Boo! You suck! On the other side of the Democratic Party, on the other side from the progressives, you have patriotic, Constitution-loving, capitalist Democrats. Yes, they exist, and there are lots of them. It seems like there aren't, because they're not on TV 24 hours a day, but there are actually lots of them. They're not on TV because your MSNBCs and your CNNs don't want them. They don't want them to come on and be reasonable. That's not what those stations are about. You haven't read opinion columns from them because they don't have hot takes. They only have normal takes. And people don't want normal takes. People want smoking hot, burn your hands off takes. When people click on an opinion column, they want that column to melt their computer. One of these people, actually, there are a few. One is Doug Schoen. I don't know if you know him. He's on Fox News sometimes. He's a Democrat, but he's real reasonable. And he's not a raving lunatic progressive. He's just a normal, patriotic, Constitution-loving, capitalist Democrat. But he doesn't have 1 million Twitter followers, and his columns are not huge events that, oh, everybody's got to read this, because he's just reasonable. And nobody is interested in that. Okay, so what's happening right now is the disconnect between these two groups in the Democratic Party is astonishing. There is a wide gulf between them. It's not even a gulf, it's an ocean, okay? It's like America and England. And what do you have between the Atlantic Ocean? That's what the Democratic Party is like right now. You have your normal, patriotic, Constitution-loving, capitalist Democrats on one side. Then you have the Pacific Ocean, and then you have the progressives. They call themselves progressives. They're not really progressives because they're socialists, which makes them regressives. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do today to show you how deep and how wide that Pacific Ocean between the moderate Democrats and the progressive Democrats is. I'm going to go deep into the weeds of the brand new Harvard-Harris poll. All right, this poll was made up of 30% Democrat respondents, 32% Republican respondents, and 29% independents. Here's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to tell you what the poll question was, and then I'm going to show you how it broke down in the different parties. I'm going to show you how it broke down among Republicans. I'm going to show you how it broke down among Democrats. And this is in order to showcase how divided the Democratic Party is. Okay, Republicans agree on a lot of things. That's what you expect. Okay, if you have a political party, what you want in polling is to see, oh good, our political party agrees on everything. It's 100% say yes and 0% say no. That's your goal. That would be ideal. Look, the whole party is together on this. You're never going to get 100% and 0%. because that's just the nature of polling. There's going to be, it's the best you can hope for is maybe like 90-10. That's pretty much everybody on board. Okay, so the Democratic Party's not any different from any other party. They want everyone on the same page, especially with the 2020 election coming up. You don't want what happened last time where you have half the people are Bernie Democrats and half the people are Hillary Democrats and they can't get on the same page. A bunch of the Bernie Democrats end up going and voting for third-party candidates. Some of them vote for Donald Trump. You don't want that. So what do? You get the party on the same page. Right now, that is not anywhere near happening. Okay, so I'll give you a quick example of what this section of the show is going to look like. Okay, the poll question is, do you approve of the job Trump is doing as President of the United States? Very general question. Overall, 48% say they approve in this poll, 52% say they disapprove. Among Democrats, 20% say they approve, and 80% say they disapprove. So that's pretty good. You got 80% of people in your party disapproving of Trump. That's pretty good. You would rather have like 90. Okay, Republican approval of Trump is at about 88%. Democrat disapproval of Trump is only at 80%. So if you're the Republican Party, you're pretty happy with 88-12. That's the kind of numbers you're looking to see. Okay, 88% of our party approves of the job President Trump is doing. Only 12% disapprove. On the Democratic side, you're a little less happy, although you're still probably pretty happy with 80% approve, 80% disapprove, 20% approve. All right, do you approve of the job President Trump is doing on the economy? Among Republicans, it's 88-12. Very broad agreement that he's doing a good job. Among Democrats, it's 34-66. That's getting into some disturbing territory for Democrats. You don't want that. That's too far apart. 80-20, all right, there's a tiny bit of disagreement happening. But when you get to 34-66, now that's a third of the party. Now you're starting to worry. All right, on stimulating jobs, Trump approval among Republicans is 90%. 90-10. That is really, really, really good news for President Trump and for Republicans. They're all on the same page. Trump's crushing it on stimulating jobs. Broad agreement. Among Democrats, it's 37-63. That's a good bit over a third of the party that thinks President Trump is doing a good job stimulating jobs. All right, next question. This is a fun one. Do you find the current field of Democratic Party candidates for president to be impressive or underwhelming? 66% of Democrats say impressive. 34% say underwhelming. There's 24 candidates in this race, and a full third of the Democratic Party are underwhelmed. That is very, very bad news. And it's not the progressives that are underwhelmed. I can tell you, it's the moderates. It's those patriotic, Constitution-loving capitalist Democrats I was talking about. They're the ones that are underwhelmed because it's like, here's Biden. Here's Tim Ryan, who you've never heard of. Here's Seth Moulton, who you've never heard of. So my choices are basically Joe Biden or one of the 0%ers. You know what? That underwhelms me. If you're a progressive and you want to blow up the Constitution to own Trump, well, guess what? You're probably not underwhelmed because you have Beto O'Rourke and Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren and just tons of other people. If you're a moderate, you have Joe Biden and you better like him. And that's it. All right, so a full third of the party being underwhelmed by the candidates is very bad news. That is a sign of the big enthusiasm gap for Joe Biden. And believe me, I promise you this, that enthusiasm gap is going to catch up with Biden, who's winning right now at 35%. That is a pretty small plurality. He needs to be doing a lot better than that in the polls, but I can tell you he's going down right now and not up because he's hiding. All right, the numbers in this poll start to get really interesting when they ask questions about China. Okay, 69% of Republicans say Trump is just right in negotiations with China. 69%. That's good. It's not great. You want to have really more than that. You want to stay in that 80-20 area. But 69 Republicans say Trump is just right in negotiations with China. Among Democrats, 50%, exactly half, say that Trump is too tough on China. Too tough on China. 29%, more than a fourth of the party, say that Trump is too lenient on China. That is quite a fault line right there. You do not want to see that if you are the Democrats. 50%, half the party thinks Trump is too tough on China. 29% think he's too lenient on China. They're divided like this on all the China questions. Should the United States target Chinese technology companies to punish China for trade infringements? 44% of Democrats say yes. 56% say no. All right, Republicans are at 71 and 29 on that. Democrats are at 56 and 44. Much more divided on these issues than the Republicans. The Democrats are much more divided on these issues than the Republicans. Would you favor or oppose a deal between... Oh, this one's good. Would you favor or oppose a deal between Congress and President Trump that gives undocumented immigrants brought here by their parents work permits and a path to citizenship in exchange for increasing merit preference over preference for relatives, eliminating the diversity visa lottery, and funding barrier security on the U.S.-Mexico border? Okay, what is that? That's DACA in exchange for a wall, ending chain migration, ending the visa lottery. Would you give the Democrats DACA, in exchange you get a wall, an end to chain migration, and an end to the visa lottery? Would you take that deal? Some of you said no, I'm sure, but I'll bet most of you said yes. Now, as you know, this is a deal that Trump already offered, and the Democrats rejected it. Guess how many Democrats support this in the poll? 60%. 60% of Democrats are for that deal. Trump offered up that deal already, and Democrats in Congress said no. They said it was racist. Oh, it's a mean, racist, awful. We can't have a wall. It's awful. It's xenophobic. It's the end of the world. We're all gonna die! Ah! Meanwhile, 60% of their party support that deal. All right, next question. In your view, is it more important to keep in place the current immigration system that gives preference to legal migrants that have a relative in the United States, or should we change to a merit-based system that gives preference to legal migrants based on skills and educational attainment? So the question is, should we have a merit system where we let in the most deserving people who are going to succeed in the United States, or should we stay with the current system that's terrible? All right, 37%, more than a third of Democrats say switch. Can you imagine? Nancy Pelosi said that was an attack on families. And I guess 37% of her party doesn't care because they believe in that. 37% of Democrats believe in that. And Nancy Pelosi said it's an attack on families. It's all hateful. We're all gonna die! It's an attack on families. It's an attack on family values. If you think that deserving people should come to the United States instead of somebody's third cousin. That's an attack on families. Oh, that is the problem with the Democrats right there.
It's all about feelings and celebrating differences.
All right, do you think There is a growing humanitarian and security crisis at our border with Mexico, or is this mainly a manufactured political crisis ahead of the 2020 elections? Exactly half, 50%, of Democrats say it is a real crisis. Exactly half of Democrats, 50%, say that it is a manufactured crisis. All right, this is one of my favorites right here. In the last month, over 100,000 people were intercepted trying to cross illegally into the United States on the southern border with Mexico. Given these numbers, do you favor or oppose the decision by the president to declare a national emergency to secure funding he needs to build a wall on the border with Mexico? Get ready to have your mind blown, because the Democratic Party and all their people in Congress told us that that was literally putting the Constitution in a shredder. That was authoritarian, that Trump was super Hitler and triple Stalin when he did that. In this poll, among everyone, 53% favored it and 47% opposed it. It's a majority of the Americans on board with that. Among Republicans, 85% said they favor and 15% said they oppose. Among Democrats, 30% say favor and 70% say opposed. Even though this was allegedly putting the Constitution into a shredder and Trump was the worst Hitler ever, and still 30% of Democrats are on board with it in that question. All right, next question. Should people fleeing general violence in a country be able to seek asylum here, or only political or religious violence aimed specifically at them? Split among Republicans, 65% say violence aimed directly at them, while 35% say general violence. I'm actually surprised the split was so big among Republicans there, 65-35. Among Democrats, 49% say general violence. 51% say violence aimed specifically at them. I want to stop for a second just to point out again how unfathomable these numbers are. The reason they're unfathomable, I'll just leave that in there. Unfathomable is because the Democrats rail the leaders, the Democratic leaders and the media rail against these policies so hard, and half the Democratic Party is on board with them. It's unfathomable. Or as I said before, unfathomable. It's a hard word to say. I mean, what's really noteworthy here is that Democrats never stop telling us that these positions are straight up immoral, evil, racist, xenophobic. Meanwhile, a majority of their party is on the side of tightening those asylum laws. A majority of their party, most of their party, is on board with that. By listening to congressional Democrats and listening to the mainstream media, you literally would not know that these Democrats exist. You certainly would not know that in some cases they're a majority of the party. They're hiding you. You're that Cousin Eddie from the Vacation movies. They're embarrassed of you. They can afford to be, because when somebody says progressive things, you don't boo them. You're not there showing up booing them for saying something that you dislike, because you're a normal, Constitution-loving American. You don't think that everyone has to disagree with you or hear about it and be booed and be embarrassed on stage, because you're not that kind of person. You're just a normal American. But the squeaky wheel gets the oil in the Democratic Party. I can assure you of that. All right, we're almost done. Couple more questions. Should people with questionable asylum claims be let into the United States for years until their case comes up? Or should they immediately be turned back to Mexico for staging? Oh, you know anyone who thinks they should be sent back to Mexico is a nasty, nasty racist who definitely hates immigrants and hates the Statue of Liberty. That's why, of course, 81% of Republicans say send them back to Mexico, which is the obvious logical thing to do. Oh, but it's so racist and hateful. Here's some interesting news. 47% of Democrats say send them back to Mexico. All right, Republicans are 85-15 on this issue. Democrats are 53-47. It's almost split down the middle. All right, do you think the investigations into Russia and President Trump are helping the country or hurting it? You just know Democrats hate Trump, so they definitely must think it's helping the country to do these investigations, right? No. 46% of Democrats say it's helping the country. 54% of Democrats say it's hurting the country. The investigations are... What? How could that be? The investigations are awesome. The investigations
are sexy. The investigations are sexy. The investigations are sexy.
I love that drop, but I literally cannot remember anymore who that is saying that. I have to look it up so that I can tell you next time who that is. I literally don't know anymore. It's the best, though. I love that drop. Makes me laugh every single time I hear it. All right, do you favor or oppose releasing to the public all of the evidence related to how and why the Russia investigation of the Trump campaign began? Now, I know Democrats are against investigating the investigators. The MSM has told me that Barr is tearing up the Constitution. This is the most super dangerous thing ever for Trump to make this information public. The Democrats in Congress told me that. The mainstream media told me that. Guess what percentage of Democrats say they support that? Really, seriously, take a guess. I want you to say it out loud right now. What percentage of Democrats you think support releasing that information on how the investigation into Trump began? Investigating the investigators. What percentage of Democrats do you think are for that? I feel like I'm the host of Family Feud right now. Survey says 84% of Democrats are for it. 84%, that's astonishing. Only 64% of Republicans are for it. Only 73% of independents are for it. 84% of Democrats support Trump making that information available. You know why? I know you're thinking to yourself right now, that's an impossible number. How could 84% of Democrats be for that? You know why? Because they believe the talking points. All these... It's so funny. All these Republicans are saying that Obama did bad things, and Comey and the FBI and Clapper and Brennan all did bad things. They're saying that Trump was treated unfairly. So the mindset of Democrats is, yeah, release the information and show them how they didn't do anything bad. These poor Democrats, their problem is they actually believe that nothing shady went down. Guess who does not share that opinion? The Democrats in Congress. No, they say it's dangerous to release that information. Adam Schiff said, hell no, don't release it. It's their worst nightmare having all of that come to light. Meanwhile, the poor Democrats who are just trusting their leaders, they're all for releasing it. Yeah, they want to prove how innocent Obama and Comey and Brennan and Clapper are, but they're not. I promise you they're not. If they were, Democrats would be all about releasing it. They don't want you to see that. They don't want you to know that that whole investigation began under shady shady circumstances. We already know. I mean, if you just look at, well, I'm not going to get it. Let's not get into that. That's a different show. All right, here's a fun one. Do you agree with the special counsel's conclusion that they did not find that the Trump campaign or anyone associated with it conspired or coordinated with Russia in its efforts to influence the 2016 U.S. presidential election? Among Republicans, 88% agree with that, 12% don't. I guess that's Bill Kristol and his ilk. Among Democrats, 42% say they agree with that, and 58% say they disagree. That's another dangerous fault line for Democrats. All right, next question. Should they contest the special counsel's investigation? I don't even know if that's a thing. Can you contest it? Should they contest the special counsel's investigation and do another new Trump-Russia investigation? 47% of Democrats say yes, throw out the results and do a new investigation. Keep investigating until you find what we want you to find. 53%, the reasonable Democrats, say, yeah, accept the findings. Don't throw out the findings just because we may not have liked them. All right, the lesson of all of this is that there is a big silent block of voters in the Democratic Party that doesn't seem to agree with the party line a lot of the time. The Democratic Party has totally and completely marginalized these people. The reason that they've marginalized them, Tarantino it back to the beginning of the show, is because if you don't marginalize that part of the Democratic Party, then the psychotic progressive part of the party flat out boos you off the stage. When this hardcore left-wing group of Democrats is booing John Hickenlooper, what's really happening? Think about it. When they do that, they are booing about half of the Democratic Party. They are booing pretty much every Democrat that I know in real life. They're not silently disagreeing. They're not trying to have dialogue. They are actively booing Democrats in Ohio. They're actively booing Pennsylvania Democrats, Michigan Democrats, Wisconsin Democrats. Those Democrats they need most to win the 2020 election. They're booing them. Why do you think Joe Biden is hiding? Why is he hiding Biden? He doesn't want to get booed. But he also doesn't want to take the positions that will prevent him from getting booed. When the Democratic Party uses these arguments that, oh, these immigration ideas are racist, they're xenophobic, they're bad, they're evil. We're all gonna die! Ah! Half of their party is included in that. They're basically saying half of their party are deplorable. Yogi Berra once said, if you come to a fork in the road, take it. Which, like most Yogi Berra stuff, is both absurd and brilliant. There's a big fork in the road for Democrats right now. If they try to go straight instead of taking it, they are going to have dangerous roads ahead. All right, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe on iTunes. Leave a review on iTunes. I can't tell you how much I would appreciate it. That's it for today. I'm out of here. Oh, man, and I just realized I had this great drop to play every time I talk about Joe Biden or every time I mention Joe Biden's name on this show, and I forgot to play it, so here it is. Joe Biden.
Did you just smell my hair?
You just listened to Politics for Patriots with Eddie Zipper. Email the show at patriots@eddiezipper.com and please subscribe.